Hi everyone, I'm Dale Smith, aka Journo Dale, and we're here to talk about Canadian politics. In the wake of Julie Payette's resignation as the Governor General, there's been a lot of talk about things like, is it time that we rethink the role of the Governor General? And I've been hearing this a lot, and I've done a couple media appearances myself, and I've been asked this question. And I figured I'd take a little more time to explain it than I normally get in the, few seconds in a media appearance. And let's try and just reconceptualize why we're asking this question. First of all, no, this is not the time to rethink the role of the Governor General because we had one bad actor. Yes, it's unusual that there is a bad actor, but I don't think that necessarily reflects on the role itself. The role is important in the way in which it keeps the head of state functions away from the head of government functions. And this is an important aspect of a parliamentary democracy like ours, so that the head of state functions, which the Queen embodies, but it, has the duties carried out by the Governor General, because the Queen is most often not in the country. And it keeps those functions separate, and it does all the kind of symbolic and nation-building stuff, which is sometimes referred to as the head of nation stuff as well. And that's, a lot of the meeting community groups and doing, there's some patronage aspects to that in terms of the Governor General as the symbolic head of certain organizations around the country as well. So it's those kind of functions. It's the honors functions like awarding Order of Canada and those kinds of things, because it keeps it out of political hands. And it's also the commander-in-chief functions of the military as well, which again is useful to have that away from the head of government functions, so that you've got a particular firewall in the unlikely eventuality that you need one. So those are all kinds of things that are important to keep away from the Prime Minister. And it's one of those things as well where having that separation prevents Prime Ministers from basically getting too big. We don't put Prime Ministers' faces on postage stamps like we do with the Queen, or things like that. And there's a kind of logic in it, in that it keeps cults of personality of forming around certain leader figures like the Prime Minister. And there's a bit of a degree of nuance into that, the way in which our party leadership structures work, kind of create their own particular cults of personality around party leaders, and political parties will reshape themselves around their leaders. To certain degrees as well. So it's not like it's completely absent from our system, but it kind of keeps a bit of a check on a Prime Minister's powers by not being able to exercise some of that head of state function, head of nation function, the ceremonial kinds of things. And that's an important thing for us to have. So that's one of the reasons why I think this notion about, rethinking the role of the Governor General is a bit cute and a bit unnecessary. We're also seeing a lot of the usual rabble coming out of the woodwork around, we don't need this office, the Prime Minister should be enough. This is a good chance to cut ties with the monarchy, so on and so on. Again, because of our parliamentary democracy system, which takes away those or separates the head of government and head of state functions, you would still need some kind of a head of state function if we did do something around getting rid of the Governor General or the monarchy. And it's a question of how you would replace that and whether it would be any better than what we have right now. And most of if you think through that exercise, I have a very hard time seeing how that could be any better. An elected head of state would come with its own particular sets of issues. It's difficult for them to be apolitical the way a governor general is ostensibly, and in particular, the way the Queen is absolutely. And that's an important consideration. And do you necessarily want a governor, an elected head of state who is going to, be of a different political stripe than the prime minister, and having them butt heads on royal assent, well, what would be the equivalent of royal assent, or signing orders in council, or signing off on appointments, or things like that. And really, it's also a practical matter in terms of the constitutional amending process. Getting rid of the monarchy would mean a top to bottom rewrite of our constitution, because the monarchy, or the crown, is the central organizing principle for the entire constitutional structure of our country. Everything revolves around it in one way or another, and it's not going to be an easy thing to replace. And that's also just to the particular point of why would we want to replace it when we've got a system that works very well, and that has a lot to commend itself. There was a question in QP the other day where the Bloc made their usual noises about what happened with Payette, and saying, why are we paying for the monarchy, and why are we keeping up with this symbol of subservience, and the government's response was, it's a symbol of our heritage. And I thought that was really lacking, because it's more than just our heritage. It's our constitutional structure. It's our national identity in a very kind of real sense, more than just heritage. It's an ongoing way of separating ourselves from the Americana that kind of surrounds us in the wider world. And it's also just the fact that this is a superior system of government that is inherently more stable, and which in practice is more progressive, and has avoided a lot of the kinds of excesses and problems that we see in certain Republican countries and governments, most especially the United States, but France is another fairly good example, and so on. So when we're seeing these kinds of questions coming out, part of it is just, anytime there's a story involving the monarchy or the governor general, these questions always come out because we have a lot of media and pundits who don't have a great deal of imagination, and this is a good standby to come out with. But it's also just those same rabble-rousers come out of the woodwork during these times as well, so they're responding to that. But I think it just requires us to kind of realize what we've got, and really kind of appreciate the way our system functions so much better than most of the other alternatives out there. And I think that we should be making kind of a big deal about that. This is a good system, it works well, and we should be proud of that. And that is everything for this week. Join us again next week for some more Canadian politics. I'm Dale Smith, that's at journo_Dale on Twitter. And don't forget to like the video, share, subscribe, and support us on Patreon. Thanks, everyone.